What's happening, everyone? So tonight's going to be an amazing show. We have a amazing guest tonight. And as you see, um, I am back in the studio. So, yeah, so I got everything set back up this week. Um, so, um, yeah, I'm excited to um, start doing the shows back in the studio. Yeah, it took a lot of work, but we are back up and running. Pardon me, I just need to take a little sip. So tonight we're going to have David Sloan, um, and we're going to talk about Robert the Doll and some other cool things. So it's going to be a great show. Um, I'm really excited to have him on. We've done a lot of business together, so um, this is a show that's been that I should have had done a long time ago. Um, and just recently, we've been talking about Robert the Doll. So yeah, I'm just really, really excited to do this show. Um, so I guess um, we'll bring him on in another minute or so. Um, can you guys hear me? Okay? Does everything sound okay? Just set up a new mic, so just want to make sure everything sounds okay. Um, Hey, Amy. Hey, Jenny. How you guys doing? All right. So, without further ado, what we're going to do is bring on David, and let me bring him on. What's happening, David?
Hey, it's great to see you, Rob.
Oh, great to see you. Like I was saying, I mean, it's been a long time. The show has been a long time waiting to happen, so I'm finally glad that we did. Um, so, what you been up to?
Things are going really good. So you and I met because you build my spirit boxes,
Right?
and I run the tours out of Forties Martello in Key West with Robert the Doll.
Nice.
So, you know, obviously I've tried a lot of different spirit boxes and I tried a lot of different paranormal communication equipment. And the things that have happened with yours is pretty mind-blowing. And there's other stuff at the fort that doesn't even have to do with your stuff, which is mind blowing. So I'm looking forward to talking with you about it.
Right. So, I mean, how did that all get started? I mean, I know that you were using what SB7s in the past on your tours.
Yeah, before I was at the 40s Martello, when we did the tours downtown, we used the SB7s.
Okay.
You I started the first ghost tours in Key West in '96, and back then there were no ghost tours in the United States. It might have been three or four. I think St. Augustine had one, Chicago had one, New Orleans, and Charleston, but I don't think there were any others in the United States. So we started the regular tours, and then when everybody started doing them across the United States, we wanted to amp it up, so we started using equipment.
Mhm.
And then, as the paranormal expanded, the spirit boxes came out, the different things, that the different communication, and it's great that everybody started getting into that. And we had some good results with all that stuff. But as you know, the big problem with the spirit boxes, headache after 2 minutes.
Right.
You listen to that static. The white noise is important, but it drove you insane.
Right. Right.
So,
Exactly.
and that's one of the things that sets what we do apart. We use your spirit boxes so people don't have to get that nonsense, and you can go for a much longer session.
Right. God, and how many of my boxes do you have? Like 10 or 12, something like that.
Yeah, I think I've got 8. Yeah.
Okay, I knew I was building them like crazy and just sending
Oh
them
yeah,
out.
no, and yeah, I think I'm up to 8 now. and
Okay.
I might have given a couple away, so you might be right on the 10.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. How did you get into building the boxes?
Um, it was almost the same thing. I was not a believer in ITC at all. I mean, I was a huge skeptic. Um, I had a few ghost boxes. I had a geo box. I had a couple other boxes, and like the geo box, I ripped it apart because it was just poorly built. So I rebuilt it, and then I sold it for what I paid for it. God, I wish I would have kept it, and because what they're selling for now is just crazy. And I think I bought it for, I think it was $700 at that time, and I had the Geo Box 4, and then so I ripped it apart, cleaned it all up, rebuilt it, and found somebody I think in Canada that bought it. So yeah, just they paid the difference, and shipping was kind of expensive, and then I just got rid of it. And then after that, I kind of sat on it for a while. I built a couple of boxes, and I just wasn't happy. I mean, they were okay, but then I just built a circuit, that when I first started building it, it sounded exactly like an SP7, exactly. So I started detuning it, and then I got rid of all the static. Um, and then I was just like, wow, this is crazy. So then just a lot of people started hearing about them, and then I just started selling them, and here we are.
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal. And I'll tell you this, with your boxes, there's a couple places I use them at the fort.
Hmm.
So, every night we're doing the tours, and Robert the Doll is not the only thing to worry about at Fort East Martello. I mean, we're talking, this is an 1862 Civil War fortress,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of 42 documented spirits. USA Today has named the fort one of the 10 most haunted destinations in America for a couple of years. And we go to this one side of the fort, there's a tunnel where a lot of bodies were piled up, not from battle, but from disease.
Wow.
And I'll run the spirit box in there and I'll send people down. And that's when we introduce them to it.
Hmm.
And you'd be amazed at how many times we get the same soldier's voice coming through.
Wow.
And it'll say things like, yes, sir. No, sir. Things that only a soldier would say.
Right.
And we've gotten some names that come through there. We had the name Jacob coming through several times. And I went to the Yellow Fever Monument in Key West
Hmm.
to look at the names of all the soldiers who did die from yellow fever during the Civil War in Key West. And we were part of the Union. It was all under Union control. And the name Jacob was on there.
Oh wow.
So it's actually helped to solve some history.
Hmm. Wow. God, you have some cool stuff behind you. I was just checking that out.
Yeah.
So tell us.
There's some cool people. There's some cool people in the comments too. Amy Edwards is here. Lori Gibbs, Purple Dahlia, Janice Bagby. Um, welcome to everybody who's here.
Yeah, it's we have a really cool audience.
Yeah, you've got a great following.
Oh yeah, it's pretty amazing. We also do a Saturday show which is dedicated to ITC. So we do live ghost box sessions. We start at 3 in the morning Eastern time. So then we go till about 5. I used to go till like 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern. So it was crazy. We do
Wow.
like 5-hour sessions. It was insane.
Wow.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit of the history behind Robert the Doll? I know a lot of people have been asking.
Yeah, so I'll tell you this about Robert the Doll. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And that's to be expected because he's 117 years old.
Mhm.
And today, everybody says, when you say world's most haunted doll, everybody's like, oh, Annabelle. But Annabelle got the Hollywood treatment. Robert the Doll, 1904
Wow.
is when he was created. And he wasn't made by an angry nanny or an angry servant. He was made by the Steiff Company in Germany. And people didn't know that for a long time because the Steiff's identification is a button in the ear.
Mhm.
And his ear was missing.
Oh,
Dolls, they get pulled around, things like that. So nobody knew. So
Mhm.
it's understandable how they thought that. But he is completely a Steiff doll. And he was given as a gift to a Key West boy
Mhm.
named Robert Eugene Otto. That's how Robert got his name. A lot of people don't know that Robert, when they created the doll in the Steiff Company, Robert was a clown. He was made as a clown. And when he arrived in Key West, he and Gene Otto developed this intense attraction to each other. And they were inseparable. And whenever Gene got in trouble for those things that kids get in trouble for, he
Mhm.
didn't take the blame. He was always heard going around saying, I didn't do it. Robert did it.
Right.
And so that's what started it all. And so early 1900s. But then Gene grew up and he went off to see the world. When he turned 18, he goes off to college. Then he went to Paris because he wanted to be an artist. And when he went to Paris, think about this time in Paris. Hemingway was there. 1920s in Paris was really the place to be.
Right.
And Gene meets Annette. He gets married. They move to New York. And then 1945, things pick up again when they move back to Key West.
So, hold on. There's a question for you. Um, are his mini Robert the doll menacing as Robert?
So people have problems with the mini Robert the dolls. And what they do, they sell them in the gift shop at the fort. There's these miniature Robert the dolls. And something crazy, the first prototypes that were made, one of my friends, Danny Halliday, she had the prototype in her office and she left it there. And it was like, okay, this is it. We're done. This is going to be good. She left, went home for the night. When she came back the next morning, her office was trashed.
Hmm.
That's the first time that something like that happened. But there are hundreds, maybe thousands of reports of other things happening. The most famous, Ozzy Osbourne. So I introduced Jack Osbourne to Robert the Doll when they were filming Haunted Highway in Key West. And he brought his dad back several years later. They get into the room with Robert. Ozzy immediately disrespects him. They buy the little Robert the doll. They take it on Ozzy and Jack's World Detour. They blame it for everything, problems with their camper van, everything. And they thought it was a good joke. I don't know if Jack did. I know Ozzy thought it was a good joke. And then Ozzy stuck it in a microwave and tried to kill it.
Wow.
And then Ozzy put it on the beach and tried to blow it up. And Ozzy thought it was funny, good TV, but his life went to hell. He got that staph infection in his thumb, put him in the hospital. And then there were several more incidents where Ozzy almost died. And he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, which is what killed Robert the doll's owner.
Wow.
So you can watch, I think the show that Ozzy and Jack did, well, all the Osbournes during lockdown, it was The Osbournes Want to Believe. And Jack would show his parents these videos, and they're showing him stuff, and he brings out the little Robert the doll. And Ozzy sees it. He's not acting. Ozzy looks and he goes, "Get that thing the hell away from me, Jack." He goes, "That thing cursed me." Ozzy knows. Ozzy knows that Robert the Doll messed up his life.
Wow. That's an amazing story. Now
Yeah.
I have to get one of the mini Robert the Dolls. Um,
Yes.
yeah, I'm gonna have to come out to the museum. Definitely. Um, God, that's pretty wild. So somebody else asked you, were you ever on Coast to Coast Radio talking about Robert the Doll?
Yeah. And that was pretty intense. When I did the show, it was before I was running tours at the fort. So, I used to run tours downtown in Key West, and I've been researching Robert since 1996. And with all my research, I uncovered stuff that nobody knew. I mean, the facts about Robert, the history of the autos, things like that. Stuff beyond the ghost stories that helped actually explain the true origins of him. And it confirmed some legends and dispelled others and put it all together. So when I went on Coast to Coast, I'd asked the museum, I said, can I go up there and do a live remote? And they're like, yeah. And they ran the landline. They ran a cord so I could get the landline in Robert's room. And I set up some different equipment, some things to let Robert know how to communicate with me. And there's this old hearse, a horse-drawn hearse that's right in Robert's room from the Lopez funeral family home, or Lopez family funeral home. Anyway, there's a lot going on in Robert's room. I have all my notes laid out on this one place, and I say, Robert, I don't want to be disrespectful having my back to you. So you set this doll off, you do this off. If you don't like something going on, or if you want to get my attention. And as soon as I get in there, this doll, it was one of those Raggedy Ann dolls with the K2 built into it, and they've discontinued those.
Right.
But it started going off hardcore, and there was nothing in the room that would have set it off. And I started asking questions, and it helped me confirm my theory about who's haunting Robert the Doll. And we did the live remote there. I talked with whoever the host was on Coast to Coast back then. And I think we did a 2 or 3 hour show. And it was intense.
Wow. So Robert's in his own room, you said?
Yeah. Robert's in a casemate. So you've got this old Civil War fort. And they never finished building the whole fort. But these rooms that were meant to hold cannons, Rodman cannons, huge, massive cannons with a 3-mile range. And now it's a museum, and it has Civil War artifacts, a lot of things pertaining to Key West history. So there's a lot of really cool stuff in there. And Robert, now he has his own room. He didn't originally. I mean, when Robert first got there, they didn't even care about him. So they put him in a back room, and he wasn't even on display. Pardon me. But today he's got his own room, and he's a huge star.
Right.
But you go into his room, you walk down this hallway, and you're walking through these casemates, and you can feel the energy from all the soldiers who were there, from all the people who helped build the fort. It's a Union fort, but it was built by enslaved people. And it was built by soldiers who didn't want to be there. And as you go down, these artifacts, Civil War, Native Americans, the convent, Spanish-American War, and then you get to Robert, and the energy changes. And I'll tell you, I mean, it's just something else. And I have been doing ghost tours in Key West for like 25 years, and I've been to almost every haunted structure in town, but I've never been in one. 'As intensive as Fort East Martello.
Yeah, like when I mean, I've never been out to Key West, but when you go out to the fort in St. Augustine, there's some parts of that fort that are really, I mean, some of the energy is really heavy. And we actually saw an apparition down where the I guess where the gentleman and the woman were chained in that room, and it was closed off, and now it's open. They have that little opening where you go in. In that room, going into that room, we saw an apparition walking through, and then it went through the wall and disappeared. Um, that was an ex girlfriend and I when I went out there, but it was pretty amazing. That energy there is just it's unbelievable. But I would love to get down to your museum and check out the fort.
Yeah, it's such an incredible place. And you go back, there was an article that ran in the 1980s where people talked about going through and they walked through some kind of a time warp. And they saw, I think, a woman in a hoop dress and then some soldiers carrying around people on stretchers. And they thought, oh, reenactment. They went and talked to the curator. They said, what's going on? And she said, there's nobody else here. And then when they looked into it, I mean, the place was used as a yellow fever hospital during the Civil War.
Wow.
And there's portals, portals are kind of like, now everybody's like, oh, we got a portal, we got a portal. And I don't, and I'm not trying to disclaim other portals because there may be more of them opening as more people are getting into it. But at this fort, there's so much stuff moving around. There's so many reports of people walking into one place and having something else happen.
Hmm.
And it's intense. 2 nights ago, we're in Robert the Doll's room, and we'd had a lot of activity that night. And there might have been 20 people in there with me. And we're all sitting down, and I get really into the stories when I'm telling them. And somebody goes, did you not hear that? I said, hear what? They said, something just banged over there. And listen, we've got the gate closed. There's nobody else outside of the gate. It was coming from the gift shop area. And I said, did it sound like a person? Because my main concern at the fort is security. So, if somebody left or somebody unlocked the door, it's like, if anybody's in there, I mean, that's my responsibility. So there was a guy sitting right by the gates, and I said, come with me, big guy. We start walking there. We look for anything out of place. Don't see anything. When we opened the curtain and went into the gift shop, Ouija board on the floor. And they sell Ouija boards there. And they've got them up on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
This was far enough away. There's no way it fell off that shelf. This thing was thrown off the shelf. And I looked at the guy. I said, hey, I mean, we walked through the curtain. I said, I want to film this. I want to document this. Mm-hmm. Can you confirm with me what you just saw? And he's like, yeah, it's there. And somebody had taken a photograph of it before the tour to show their friend, because their friend is freaked out by Ouija boards. She said, I've got a photo of it before. And you look at that photo, it's perfect, just where it was. No way that thing was going to fall on its own.
Wow. Wow.
And I don't know if it's Robert or if it's a different entity. Tonight, we hear a big bang, and somebody's like, what was that? I said, let's go check it out. And we go, and I've got Dan does our VIP experience where he takes people, he sets people up for the after hunt. I said, let's go see. It might be Dan. We go back, and I kind of poke my head out, and I go, oh, it's Dan. And he was there. I talked to Dan after the tour. He goes, hey, I saw you poke your head out with that loud noise. He said, listen, I had just come in the door. I wasn't even over in that area. He said, I heard the bang too. I went and I looked, and there's a Sunkist soda that fell out of the vending machine.
Oh, wow.
Now, the strangest thing about that, it's right next to the old cook place. And there's a ghost at the fort that we call the Orange Boy because people walk by there and smell oranges. And they say that his mom used to bake for the troops.
Mhm.
And he'd sit on a stool beside the oven when she was baking, and he'd eat oranges.
Wow. What a
So I thought
coincidence.
it was really weird that the sun-kissed orange came out.
Right. Yeah, that's too coincidental.
And stuff like
That's
this happens every night.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So Kevin has a question. He said, "Do you ever sit alone and do a ghost box session with Robert?"
Yeah, I do. Not in my house, but, I mean, Robert's at the 40 Smartello. And yes, we do spirit box sessions with him every single night. So when we do the tour, the last 30 minutes, we do a sit down lockdown with Robert the doll. And about midway through, when we read him a letter, I put one of your spirit boxes up on top of his case,
Mhm.
and I'll ask him, I'll say, "Is there anybody who you want to have read to you?" And I'd say maybe one in 10 nights, he'll shout out a name nice and clear, and that person will look and they'll be like, "Oh my God." A lot of nights when I say, "Who do you want to read?" He's like, "David." And and I don't respond to that because I'm not the one to read. I want somebody else to read. And
Right.
then I'll ask him to touch, a K2 if he wants to do that. And it happens sometimes it doesn't. But people read, and some nights we get these incredible reactions. He really goes based on how much he likes a person. But here's the weirdest thing with the spirit boxes. Some nights, I'd say maybe 1 in 30 nights, he starts mimicking me. And I'll read. I mean, I'll tell a story and I'll say, "Oh, he did this and then so and so in the house." And then you hear the voice, it just goes, "House."
Wow.
But he'll start mimicking, and it doesn't happen often. And then some nights we get a child's voice who comes through, and other nights, I mean, there's dark entities. Robert's multiple entities. And some nights you get these dark entities come through, and you'll get these low, guttural voices. And I know who they are, and I'm not worried about them. I mean, they're not gonna mess with me, but I let everybody else I let them know to watch out.
Right. So we have another question. David, what's the scariest thing that ever happened during a tour?
Okay, so not during a tour, but we did a lockdown, and after the lockdown, it's like 3 in the morning, and everybody's gone. I'm closing stuff up, and I walk, and there's this narrow staircase leading down to the dungeon area. And as I walk towards it, I feel something charging me. And if you've been around spirits long enough, you know when they're around and you kind of sense what's happening.
Mhm.
Right. And I've got some different spirits, some guides with me after the hell I went through with Robert. So I got the warning of like something coming in, and you felt it charge up. And if you've ever had a ghost walk through you, it's almost like something's pushing and pulling cold water through you. And because it goes through your muscles and your bones and your skin at different speeds. And I felt it come right into my head and lean its head down once it was in there. And it went, and it blew. And it froze me. It froze me from. My hair's standing up talking about it. Um, Listen, it was so intense, and I walked straight to the door at the fort, and I was about to leave. And I thought, I'm coming back tomorrow. I'll clean up then. I cannot deal with this. But because of what been through before, when you let the fear in with spirits, that's when they win, and that's when you're screwed. And I
Yep.
stopped at the door, and I said, nope, if I leave here, I'm never going to be able to do this. And I knew I wouldn't be able to come back to the fort. I mean, and that's, I mean, come on, that's my dream job. I've been researching Robert for 25 years. So to have the opportunity to be up there was huge. And I stopped. And I walked back to the spot where it happened. And I looked up, not for any particular reason, but I said, listen, I don't know who you are, but we're gonna have to work together for a long time. So give me what you got. And I stood there and I kind of braced myself.
Mhm.
And it got really intense for a second, and then it stopped and it dissipated.
Hmm.
And I feel like most of the spirits at the fort, I feel like we have this understanding. And the crazy thing, God, I mean, we didn't even talk about my family connection. I didn't know for the longest time. Okay, so I know Key West, I know Key West history.
Mhm.
When I started at the fort 17 months ago, I mean, and I've been in Key West since 96, I started digging into the Civil War history. And I found out that my great 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 grandfather, the first David Sloan, I find out that his Civil War regiment was in charge of Key West during the Civil War and that they helped build that fort.
Wow.
And I really think I'm a reincarnation of him. I think I was sent to that fort for a reason. I think it's something that's been several generations in the works. And I feel like a lot of the people there are people that my great 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 grandfather served with.
So do you feel like the fort was drawing you in, like you had because you didn't know that connection,
I
but
didn't know
then
the connection. I feel like I was sent. I mean, I used to manage cruise ships.
Mhm.
I'd been in. I went to college in Miami, went to Key West on spring break, got arrested after like 3 minutes for underage drinking, and I never imagined I'd move there. But when I went to start a ghost tour, I went to Charleston. They already had one, and then a friend of mine in Key West reached out to my parents trying to find me. This is before cell phones,
Mm.
and they said, "Oh, he's right here." So I talked to him, and he said, "Oh, come to Key West, second oldest city in Florida." And I came down and I slept on his kitchen floor and started researching. And nobody was talking about ghosts in Key West at the time. They were here, but nobody talked about them. It was all in the archives. And
Right.
I was very fortunate to be the first to uncover this stuff. So, but I don't feel like it's me. I don't feel like I'm the smart guy. I set out to do this. I don't feel like any of that. I really feel like I've been led
Mhm.
the entire time.
And it's funny how we're drawn to something or you're led to something. Um, Now when you're on your tours or when you're there at the fort, do you ever hear disembodied voices calling your name or just saying, "Oh, it's David"?
Through your boxes all the time. And this is so funny. With your spirit boxes, okay. So I have one in this tunnel where a bunch of people died. Well, they didn't die there, but their bodies were piled up in this tunnel. And so I run a spirit box there and I turn it on before the tour when I'm setting up. And during that time, I hear people coming through on different levels of urgency, and they'll be like, David, 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 David. And I'll talk to them. I'll say, hey, here's how many people are coming through tonight. Last night when you touched somebody on the neck, oh, when you touched their hair, that was cool. And I'll kind of give them advice or requests on things to do because I really do feel like they're working with me. But the weird thing, you get all those Davids then, and then during the tour, different voices come through, and it's different people, and they don't say David at all.
Wow.
And then when I close down, they'll come right back with the other stuff.
Right. Now here's the thing. So like the fort, I mean, I'm sure it's probably built out of, uh, rock or brick or whatever. But it's so you have to think when you're walking through with a ghost box or, or a spirit box of any type, um, not very much, you're not going to pick up a lot of radio stations going through there, right? I mean, have
No,
you seen
no, I mean, it's a brick fort, 8-foot thick walls.
Right.
So it's limited. That's not to say that the radio waves won't carry through there.
Right, but I mean, what I'm saying is, I mean, it's gonna be because I mean, I've been through, certain locations like that, and you don't pick up a lot of radio. You might get, a station coming in through here and there, but to pick up different voices like that, it's just a little baffling. I mean, even me coming as I mean, even when I was doing that as a skeptic, I would always try to figure out, what was causing that. And, but then sometimes it was like, wait a minute, you'll take a regular radio and try to lock it on the station and it
Yep.
doesn't lock on.
Yeah.
So that's how I try to debunk anything now. I mean, I'll carry a regular radio that's not modified so you can see where it's scanning and what stations it's hitting. You'll take another ghost box and then you'll start using that ghost box to try to say, well, there's no way it's logging on the radio. So that's basically how I try to, you know, uh, keep record of all the false positives that could be coming through.
Right. Right. And I don't even try to keep track of that. I mean, so I don't consider myself a paranormal investigator. I consider myself a ghost hunter because I have no doubt in the existence. And what I want to do is bring people to my world and have them experience that. Uh, and so I don't always say, oh, it could be this, it could be that. I mean, sometimes, obviously, yeah.
Right.
But God, there's in the fort, there's these powder rooms, which were gunpowder rooms,
Hmm.
a powder magazine. And they've got these dome ceilings. And I've got a theory that those are some of the places that act as the portals where the spirits travel through. And I don't know if it's the shape of the ceiling. I don't know what it is, but there's 4 of them in the fort. None of them are accessible to the public. There's one in a public area, but it stores valuable prints and stuff. So we'll open that up during the VIP part and let people in sometimes.
Hmm.
I'll tell you this. People go in there with their spirit box, and it started happening so much. People are like, we were in there and it called us by our name.
Wow.
And one person says that, and there's 3 in their group, and they said it called all of them by their name. And then I get somebody else saying it, and somebody else. So I've started sending people in. I say, go in there with the spirit box, see if you can get them to say your name. It happens so much.
So Deb has a question. She says, David, what do you think is it that you're communicating with?
I think most of the spirits I'm communicating with are soldiers and enslaved people who are still trapped at the fort. That's what I believe. Now, I've got a collection of haunted or possessed objects, and when I say that, I'm like, supposedly haunted or possessed objects. I've been collecting them for about 26 years. I've probably got less than 30 items. And some of them have some intensity. So with those in the fort, I think those are the wild cards. And those are the negative entities. So if bad stuff's happening, we have people get burned with their religious symbols all the time, with crosses, things like that. And I think that's attached to, well, there's the devil's mask that used to be at Ripley's, believe it or not.
Mhm.
When those moved into the fort, stuff started knocking around. I mean, crazy stuff. But there's also an asylum pan with like this ghost print in it. Like you can see the fingers marked right into it. And then somebody stole a stone from Marie Laveau's grave in New Orleans. And this was at a house I cleansed in Key West. And when I went to cleanse the house, you always ask, what's new, what's changed, what's happened? And they're like, oh yeah, we brought this back from New Orleans. And their dog would not come in the house. All their houseplants died overnight.
Wow.
So that stuff has this dark energy. However, with all the soldiers at the fort, I think they know my family connection. And we've got a room full of haunted dolls, besides Robert. And we get so many reactions from them. But what I really think's happening, I think the soldiers and the enslaved people, I think they know the energy I'm bringing them. And, I think I could tell people, George Washington's ghost does this. And I think the soldiers and enslaved people would step in and be like, boom, I'll make that happen for you.
Hmm.
So I really think I'm working with a team of the people from the fort, and that they appreciate the energy that we bring there. So it makes it, it's great because they are there and it makes so much stuff happen. Now, the problem with it is, what if there are other spirits? If every spirit I talk about, if they pretend to be that one,
Mhm.
it can make it difficult to say, well, is it this one or is it that one?
Right. So, it's like with anything else, like I always say, it's intent. If you go in there with intent to try to communicate with something, majority of the time it will happen. As we do these ghost box sessions on our show all the time, and it's funny. Sometimes it seems like it's roll call because we're getting all of the viewers' names coming through, and it's really strange.
Yeah, it's mind blowing when it happens. And with the ghost boxes, I'll look at it and I'll be a skeptic because they're, obviously some people hear things that they want to hear,
Mhm.
you know. Um, and some of the stuff that comes through, but I always try to tell people, listen, you're gonna get interference. You're gonna get stuff that's not a ghost. Don't look at it like every single word coming out of that box is a ghost, because it's
Mhm.
not.
But
We always-
you've been doing ghost box sessions long enough,
Yeah,
so you kind of understand when it might be radio coming through. You can tell the difference.
yeah. And when someone's new, it's tough. So I always tell people on the tour, I say, listen, I want you to disregard anything that sounds like music, anything that sounds like blah, 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 blah. And I want you to listen for the same voice over multiple channels.
Mhm.
When you get that same voice across the channels, that's when there's someone trying to communicate. So, and it should say something relevant. And some of the things that I like to do, I like to ask questions that have a specific answer. So I'll say, if there's anybody here, what's your favorite color? That gives a limited number of answers, right?
Right.
How many of you are here? We expect a number back. So if we make it more concise and more clear,
Mhm.
then that can help identify if we're actually talking with an entity.
Right. Right.
And it might be insane too, but but that's what I like to do.
Yeah. So you said that you'll get people that have like religious symbols on them and they'll get burned.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, so can you explain? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
That's kind
So
of crazy.
so in 17 months, we've had 38 people burned. Um, the first night it happened, we used trigger objects to bring out the spirits. And I had this mock pistol. It's a baby Philadelphia. I gave it to a girl. She walks down the creepy tunnel. She's less than halfway down. She goes, my neck's burning, my neck's burning. I said, come back, come back. We looked at the back of her neck. She had a tattoo of a crucifix.
Oh my God.
I've had 38 people burned. Normally not as intense, but tattoos of crosses on their neck. And if it happens to one person, it happens to everybody who has a cross. There's nights when there's 4 or 5 people with crosses. If none of them get it, none of them get it. We use a fluorothermal imager as they're walking down the tunnel to watch, and I can
Right.
tell them if they're getting burned. I'm like, oh, they're about to get it.
Right.
And yeah, it's.
I heard something about you using the trigger object, I mean, a gun to walk down that tunnel. How
Mhm.
I don't remember where I heard it, but yeah, I heard somebody was talking about it, and yeah, they were using a trigger object, and they had an experience, and then you
Yeah,
would call back.
yeah.
I saw a post somewhere, and I read that. I was like, "Oh my god, I got it," and I kept on meaning to talk to you about it, and it always slipped my mind.
You know, I play different music for Robert the Doll when we're setting up, and I played because he liked Ozzy, because Ozzy had the encounter with him. I played Motley Crue for him when I was setting up, and it was their first album I was playing. And I played it, and he seemed to like it, and I played it for 30 days in a row. On the 30th day, Vince Neil from Motley Crue showed up on the tour.
Oh, wow.
And I gave him the cross. And he walked down the hallway. He had it heat up on him.
Wow. So here's another question. Why do the spirits not like symbols of religion in your observations?
I don't have a clue. I really don't have a clue. I think it's one of the entities doing it. I used to think it was those masks that were causing it, but they're doing renovations at the fort. And when we moved everything around, so I had to take down stuff on half of the hallway and move to the other side. And the burns that have happened lately didn't happen by those masks. So now I'm thinking it's the Marie Laveau stone. I don't know if it's a ghost who's saying, you silly Christians or something like that.
Right, right.
Because I don't feel like the devil's there. I don't feel like it's anything horrible. I think it's something that's challenging people wearing those religious things. And it's almost always crosses, crucifixes more than crosses. I had one person message me on Instagram and they said, "Hey, do people ever break out in rashes after they leave the fort like I did?" And I said, "Let me ask you a question." I said, "Were you wearing any religious symbols? And did it stop immediately?" And they said, "Yeah, I was wearing a St. Lazarus medal." And it stopped immediately.
Wow.
So that's the one that wasn't really crossed. Now, tattoos and stuff. Oh, I had one person with a psalm tattooed on their arm, and their whole arm got inflamed where the psalm was.
Wow.
And I had one person with an evil eye ring, and it burned right next to that. But apart from that, it's mainly crosses.
That's crazy. There's another question. Has it ever happened with a pentagram?
No, but I had. God, there was a girl who I sent her and her boyfriend or her husband down. They go down the hallway and they had the cross, and the guy comes running up. I might have even posted this on YouTube. I'm not sure. But the guy comes running. He's like, "Oh, bleep no." He goes, "I went down there and it said Satan." He goes, and then it said run. And then him and his girlfriend come up, and she had gotten burned, and she had, God, what was it? She had a tattoo, not of a demon, but she had a tattoo of something dark. And I remember people saying, "Are you devil worshippers?" And they're like, "No," but they got hit hard. So I don't know, there's so much weird stuff all the time.
Right, right. So, I mean, what's your rapport like with Robert? Because it seems like earlier we were talking about, no disrespect, I'm turning my back towards you. I mean, it seems like there's like a mutual respect with
Yeah.
you and Robert.
Yeah, there is. Hey, somebody asked about what does Robert think of Rat? I'm gonna play Rat for him this next week, and I'll let you know. Um, so with Robert, for a long time, I didn't know what was going on. And listen, I started researching him. Nobody knew much about him, and I uncovered all of this stuff, all of the true information. I mean, nobody knew his true origins.
Mhm.
All they knew were the legends. Oh, Robert's created by an angry servant who practiced voodoo. That's the story that was out there. But I found these boxes in the archives with all these letters between the Otto family. And through my research, I was able to track Robert down as a Stife. So when I found all this stuff, I thought, great, we're going to remove that stigma from him. He's going to be so happy. And that's when I got attacked. That's when I got hit. And my life went to hell. And I went through several months of hell first. And then later down the road, several years of hell. And the thing is, I didn't realize there were multiple spirits with Robert. I thought Robert would be happy that I found out the truth and that he wasn't an evil doll. But you know what the truth was? The truth was there's evil entities attached to Robert, or dark entities,
Mhm.
and they didn't want the innocent doll story coming out. And it
Gotcha.
screwed up my life. I mean, it screwed up my life for a long time. And
So do you
now,
think Oh, go ahead.
well, now that I know that I'm dealing with multiple entities, I mean, I had to have Santeria, a Santeria priest and his family. I mean, they did a misa spiritual, and they removed dozens of spirits that were possessing me because these ones didn't want it out. And but now that I know, that there's multiples, and I've been set up with a protector, they're not able to hurt me.
Yeah. And that's what I was gonna say. I mean, before you even jumped into that, I was gonna ask, are you ever afraid of oppression? But you've suffered oppression.
I went through it. I
Yeah.
went through it,
So
and the fear is the worst thing you can let get in. And because once you let it in, you're not getting rid of it.
right.
And they will seize that, and they will, at least in my case, they will seize it and they will manipulate it, and you're screwed because once you're afraid, you've let something in,
Right.
and you're done. You're absolutely done once you're afraid.
Yeah. Now, was it that you were afraid, or did something scare you and you opened yourself up to be afraid?
I never protected myself.
Okay.
I had an ego. Okay. I probably still do, but I had a big ego, and I thought, uh, oh, I'm Mr. Ghost Guy. You know, I nobody else had been doing it, at least in these areas, and I'm like, oh, I'm Mr. Ghost Guy. I know more than anybody.
Mhm.
And I was young and I was stupid, and I thought I was really cool, and I never protected myself, and it opened up a lot of things, and they got in, and I've been I was humbled several times, and I still didn't pay attention to it, and I still thought I was better than all this stuff, and I paid the price.
Yeah, and that's something that I talk about, is about oppression because a lot of people don't even think about oppression. People don't think that, that anything could happen to them, but that's when that's when it happens. Those people that go in and say, "Oh, I'm not afraid of that," and something happens, and they
Yeah,
let their guard down, and next thing you know, you're suffering from oppression.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's crazy. I mean, I suffered from oppression, so I know, and it was like you. I was in this location for a long time. All of a sudden, I said, "You know what? I thought I was invincible." and something just scared the crap out of me one day, and I was spooked. And I think that that's when I let my guard down, and that's when I was attacked.
Yeah. Yep. And that's the way it works. And I feel very fortunate because with this Santeria ceremony, I was introduced to my spirit guides, and I was also given more or less a door lady, and she's with me. And whether I pay attention to her or not, she's still there, and she'll tell me, "Hey, watch out for this, watch out for that." And she's got the rope. She's got the velvet rope. And anywhere I go, because I'm so horrible at protecting myself, she's there. And anything that tries to come in, she says, "Yeah, you can come in." "Nope, nope, you're not coming in." And I get just the little voice in the earpiece that says, "This is what's around. That's what's around." And, of course, on a tour, I don't talk about that. I don't tell people I've got this lady telling me everything going on because, I don't want to come across as insane at the beginning of the tour. But yeah.
Wow. So there's a few questions. How can Robert's visitors stay safe?
Okay, so the biggest misinformation about Robert the Doll is that you're supposed to ask permission. Don't ask permission. I mean, the legend exists for a reason, but it's stupid. You never ask an entity for permission. So respect. I just tell people respect Robert, respect his fort, and you're not going to have an issue with him. People say, "Oh, ask him permission before you take a photo." How's Robert going to tell you, "Oh yeah, it's okay to take a photo," or not? That's a human creation. So I'd like to dispel that myth. It's all about respect. Now, people who disrespect him, there are people who die after they go in there and flip him off and yell at him and say, "Oh, there's nothing to you. You're bullshit," all that stuff. There's people who die, and there's letters that come to the fort talking about these deaths. So be respectful.
Right.
And you won't have problems. There's multiple entities with Robert. That's the thing to be aware of. A recent psychic who visited Robert, she said Robert is a portal. And that's something that's come up several times. There's actually a portal where it's a bunch of spirits coming out. And the original spirit of Robert the Doll is a child. Okay. And it's a long story, but I have documentation which will pretty much verify that there's a child that makes sense as Robert's spirit. But the thing is, with that child, it's 117 years old now. And it doesn't like being disrespected. So the thing that happens is when the child's disrespected, it's almost like it's got a little bit of tar on its hand. And if you go in there and act like a jackass, they'll just come right up and wipe some of the tar on you. And these other entities that are in there will follow you home. Some of the other ones in that portal, and they'll follow you home. They will make your life an ever-living hell.
Right.
And the only way to get rid of them is writing the letter.
Yeah, I've seen some of the letters that were shared and came into the museum. It's pretty crazy. I've always been fascinated with Robert, and I'm surprised I haven't asked you. I think I was just trying to keep everything professional and wanted to have you on before I asked you questions.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to come to Key West. and see what your spirit boxes do with Robert.
Right. Yeah, I have to get out there. It's got to be a road trip. Just like what Lisa said, road trip. Um there's another question. Do y'all protect yourselves before going on tours? Yes. Always.
Yeah, and I'm horrible at protecting myself, and that's why I've got the protector. I do cleansings at the end of every tour to make sure guests don't take anything home with them.
Now here's another question. Um is there a female haunted doll, Selva twin Roberta? I don't know.
I think the spirit inside of Robert is a little girl, so that would be the Roberta part. But listen, with haunted dolls, I'll be honest with you. I mean, there's a bunch of people jumping on the haunted doll bandwagon ever since the Annabelle movie came out. It's like, oh, this doll's haunted, that doll's haunted. Any old doll, people are going to say, oh, it's haunted, it's haunted, it's haunted. I think it's gotten kind of out of hand, but I do think dolls serve as vessels. So in certain cases, there are things going into them. But I'll tell you, Robert the Doll, 1904. I mean, that's the original haunted doll. And people say, what about Annabelle? She's got to be the most haunted doll. Annabelle got the Hollywood treatment, but you can count on one hand the number of people who have been possessed or had something go awry with Annabelle. You want to do that with Robert the Doll? You know how many hands you're going to need? Thousands.
Yeah, it's crazy. Just hearing all the stories. I mean, if you do any research on Robert, I mean, and you just look at all the stories and see some of the letters that were submitted to the museum.
Mhm.
It's just amazing.
Last count I heard is that he's approaching 10,000 letters.
Wow. And you could see some of the letters online. I mean, people have posted some of the
Yeah.
letters.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions before David has to go? David, but I mean, it was amazing having you on. Now, how can people find the museum? Is there a website that they can go to, or?
Yeah. So, I mean, the 40s Martello Museum, they can visit there, during the day, during regular hours. If they want to do the experience with me, which is the nighttime ghost hunts, I run the ghost hunts at night. Okay. So I'm separate from the museum, but I work with them in conjunction. So, ghostfort.com, and that'll give you all the information and some pretty cool stuff. And then I guess on our Instagram and Facebook, we'll post stuff. We got a YouTube page or something. But if people look around, they'll find it. There's some cool. I've just started posting some videos. I posted something about that Ouija board incident. There's crazy stuff happening, so I document it whenever I can. The cross burns, stuff like that, is on the Robert the Doll Experience Ghost or YouTube page.
So I'm gonna be, I have to make a trip out there.
Yeah.
I'm not coming out there in the summer, but I'll have to come out. Maybe I'll come out there in early fall. Maybe
Yeah.
that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
Or try to go out there around Halloween time. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
We'll talk, definitely.
Yeah. All year long. Let me see if there were some questions. Yeah. Carol was asking Ghost Fort. Yeah, ghostfort.com. Thanks for everybody who's there in the comment section. I'm reading the comments right now. Janice, thank you. Purple Dahlia, Sandy, Carol, Nora. Wow, a lot of people in here. So thank you everybody for listening. Any other questions that I might have missed?
Oh, somebody said, I'm gonna look him up. Yeah, he's dressed up as a sailor. So when did the sailor outfit come into play? Because you said he was originally a clown.
Yeah, so he's originally clown. The sailor outfit belonged to Gene Otto. And we actually, I uncovered a photo of Gene Otto when he was a kid wearing that sailor outfit. So
Wow.
the Stife Company, they did a circus series. And Robert, his size is very rare. They made smaller versions of him.
How big is he?
He's about 4 feet tall, just under 4 feet tall.
I didn't know he was that big.
Yeah, size of a small child. And the Steiff experts I talked to, both in the United States and in Germany, said it's likely that he was made as a display item. Like he would have been in the window of a store like FAO Schwartz to sell smaller versions of himself. So that there's there's a replica. But this is like a true to size replica. It's about the size of Robert.
Oh wow.
This is Richard the doll. He's Robert's stunt double.
Gotcha. Wow. And how big are the minis? Like about a foot tall? Maybe.
Okay, so these were some of the original ones. That's a little larger, and the ones now about a foot tall.
Okay.
The one that Ozzy got is about a foot tall. And they do sell them online. I mean, the 40s Martello is a great nonprofit runs it. And they sell them. They're almost out, though. And with the supply chain, I think they're going to be out for a few months. So I don't know if they're doing online orders. You might have to actually come to Key West.
Okay.
I'm
definitely going to pick one up.
Yeah. I mean, they're really cool. So.
Yeah, I think that's probably all the.
Yeah, Chuck says that's the replica that freaks the crap out of me. And then Celebrity Kevin Hart, thank you. Okay, thank you. And Celebrity Kevin Hart, Carol, Janice, awesome meeting all of you. I really appreciate everybody coming out to listen to this. Sandy, Deb. I'm going to go back through and read all these comments. So. And awesome. Rob, I really appreciate you having me.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Yeah, I'll get your box out to you soon, and yeah, we'll talk offline, and we'll set up a time when I could come out and hang out.
And you know, when I get some, we're trying to get some internet in the fort. It's tough with all the brick, but when we do that, it would be fun to do some live spirit box sessions with Robert, and with all your fans.
Oh, we can definitely do that. Yeah, no, that would be incredible. We've done it with other hosts, and so I do a spirit box session from here, and we've done one at the SK Pierce Mansion. We've done a couple in Gettysburg, so we've done remote locations, and the ghost box sessions that we did were phenomenal, just mind blowing. So yeah, that would be amazing to do that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your boxes, and I appreciate your time too. I mean,
yeah,
I'm such a fan of your boxes. I can't, you know. Well, people ask me all the time. People who've used the SB7s, they say, "Where do you get those spirit boxes?" I say,
well, these are only exclusive to David. Yeah. I mean, seriously. I mean, you know, you asked me to build you a couple, and I'll still build them for you. So I
Yeah.
just got to find you different cases, and we'll talk about that. But
Amazing stuff. So thank you for everything, Rob.
oh, it's my pleasure, and thanks for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.
And thanks for everybody else who tuned in tonight. Good night,
All right,
everybody. Happy
see you later.
hauntings.
All right, see you later. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, bye. So, everybody, that was amazing. Thank you for everybody tuning in. So we'll continue on with the show. Man, you know what? I should have set up this show a year ago. Seriously. I've talked to David. We talk constantly. Um, you know, uh, it's just I don't know why I just never thought about, bringing him on. And I think we were talking about Robert the doll, and then I said, "Wait a minute. I got a connection." So, yeah, I'm so glad that he came on. I'm so excited. Um, yeah, but as you know, everybody can see now, now here's a funny thing. I didn't want to take away from David. So, here's a funny thing. Who was it? I think it was Joe. Joe, you said that you were seeing smoke by me. So here's the thing. I'm in my new studio. About that time that you said that you saw smoke by me, I got an overwhelming sensation of like men's cologne, um, or aftershave. Uh, so he, how can I even say this? So basically, I'm at um, so I'm basically at my mom's house, and so I'm staying here helping her out, and so she was going through some things. So anyway, so I came to help her out. So I cleared everything out, and built the studio this over the last week. Um, Now my stepdad passed. Um, I want to say about it was about 4 years ago. So now the whole time that I've been in here and working on stuff, I've never smelt anything. Now, when Joe said that, there was a very strong, and he used to wear a particular aftershave, and that's exactly what I'm smelling. So it's like I didn't even put two together until I was like, "What does that smell?" And I didn't want to take away. Like I said, I just sat here, didn't say a word, and I smelt that cologne or that aftershave, and it is what it is. So yeah, breaking into the new studio, I'm back in another location that has activity already. So yeah, here we go. So the old location had a portal in For Spirit. Now I'm in this one, and there's already things happening. So whatever. You heard whistling? That's crazy, but it is what it is. Yeah, I could actually change the lights. Um, so I have full control. Um, Trying to change them again. No, back. What did I do? Come on, there. I gotta turn it down. Too bright. Oh, come on. Come on. There we go. Put it back. All right, now I'm blind. um yeah, Lisa, that's I've done it once before when my stepdad passed, and she needed some help, so I said fine. Um so I'm here. Yeah, after my stepdad passed, um I moved out of my old place and moved in. Um so yeah, I made some sacrifices over the years, but that's what we got to do, what we got to do to help out our parents, right? So sorry, Nora, I'm just trying to read your question. I was blinded a little bit by looking up at those lights for a minute. Um, I don't know. Maybe. Well, thank you, Amy, for that. Um, yeah, I was going to do something for Lisa before. I mean, when I announced that, my studio's back. I mean, I took all of the old um, things that I had in my old studio and just put it up. So I got to get some things and put behind me. So I got to still do some decorating. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I thought about, I don't want to just bring the old stuff that I had up before. I thought about it, but I'm like, I got to change it up. I'll make it a little bit darker in here too. So, but I have my camera up. I have my mic up. Well, actually, I bought new audio gear since somebody else has my old audio gear. Um, so, but anyway, I can do things and I can start. I mean, I could cuss without being um, thrown in Facebook jail or us getting in trouble on Live Paranormal with me cussing because I do cuss a lot. So I can bleep me out now without just saying it. I got to watch what I say, Lisa. Um, I'm tired of getting us in trouble um, on Live Paranormal, especially with what I saw uh, this past week on how we're doing. Can't kill those numbers. Anyway, so um, yeah, beeps work. So talking about what we so celebrity Kevin Hart brought up a good topic on on our, I guess, group page. So what we're going to do is if anybody wants to, if anybody wants to share any experiences that they capture, like doing because people do go back and listen to the audio after the Saturday show. Um, so if anybody wants to bring in some, maybe share some clips or share some experiences that they had, what we can do is bring on a guest like on Saturday, and um and then we could talk and kind of share some experience that experiences that people might have had, just like as a special guest on the show. Um, or if they want to talk about any stories that they did or that they have to share with the group, we could do that. Um, so we just want to kind of change things up a little bit. I don't know what you guys want to do. So if you go and read his post, so we were talking about that a little bit. Um, so what if you guys want to share something? So if you go onto the group page, um, and you want to share something, or if you have any comments that, hey, I want to share this or that, um, that's a place to do it. And then we'll set up a day or a Saturday that we can do that. Or we can even do it on this show. After we bring on a guest, I'm going to try to schedule more guests. Um, we could either do it on this show or we could do it on the Saturday show. It's all up to you guys on however you want to do it. Um, I might even start doing ghost box sessions on the Wednesday show after the guest, once like with David, he just left. So this time we could do maybe ghost box sessions or something like that. Um, it's just, whatever you guys want to do. I just want to kind of leave that open. We could just bounce ideas off of each other and see what we want to do. Um, it's just a thought. So now with the new audio equipment, I mean, there are um, like Android emulators out there, but I don't want to run an emulator. I mean, emulators work okay, but let's say we want to use a built-in mic or something like that that's built in. I would rather use a physical device than an emulator. I don't like running emulators on computers anyway. I would rather run a physical piece of hardware. Um, just because it just works better. It runs true on the emulators. Sometimes work a little bit. They run a little bit slow, so sometimes the processing isn't the same. Sometimes doing ghost box sessions using like if we try to, let's say we're going to run an app like Echovox. Just sometimes I've noticed when you're running it through an emulator, it's not the same. The outcome isn't the same. The results aren't the same. So in this case, like, if I do, I mean, I do have a tablet. We can run a tablet and try to um, run some different apps. I do have a bunch of apps on my tablet. Um, or I might even get a newer tablet because the tablet I have is a little old. So I was thinking about getting a new one and setting up a bunch of different apps. And we can also do not only Blu-ray, but or reverse box or forward boxes, but we can also do different apps if you guys want to try that. Because I know that sometimes people ask about apps, and the only app that I've really had success with is Echovox. But if anybody has any apps that they want to check out or try out, we can always do that just so we can um, just try to different experiments. Or we can even try an app and a ghost box session or an app and Blu-ray at the same time. Um, you know, I'm open for anything. Exactly, Lisa. Second half we can do ghost box sessions. What did Kango say? Something definitely feels like it came full circle. Oh, no, exactly, Kanga. Yeah, definitely something did come around full circle. This is the first night that I'm doing this. Uh, yeah, I mean, I just literally set up all the equipment. I mean, everything else I was working on, but literally after work, I was scrambling to set up everything. I mean, the mic is brand new. I've had it for a while. Um, I just never set it up. The mixing board I got a couple of weeks ago. Um, I just needed to get everything set up. So it's just been like the mic has been sitting. It was in my old studio sitting there. But yeah, so anyway, I just set everything up tonight. The lights and everything I already had set up. Um, but yeah, everything else was just I was scrambling. And when David was coming on, I did have a couple of um a couple of technical issues, but we straightened them out. And anyway, wait, what? Wasn't in the quote marks. What are you guys talking about? What did I miss? All right, Len. um so I'm just reading all the comments. I'm like, wait, what? Uh So, essay, you can go back and watch the replay. The replay will be both on Live Paranormal or on YouTube, so you can go back and check it out later. So, also, I found a box full of. I mean, I got to count how many I have, but I have some of my old paranormal group um, T-shirts. So I wanted to send one to Len. Um, I think I might. Yeah. So I have. Sorry, guys. I only have like XLs and double XLs. But if anybody wants a T-shirt, let me know. I'll have to count to see how many I have in the amounts that I do have. Um, all of the mediums and larges, I've already given away, so sorry. Uh, yeah, I think I only have extra large and double X um, left. But if anybody wants a T-shirt, let me know. Just throw it in the group chat or in the group page. I'll post it up in the group page, and if anybody wants one, um, yeah, we can just do it through there. So if you guys aren't on the group page yet, um, I'll have to send you an invite because now it's a closed group. So I'd have to send you an invite. So if you guys want, you can just and you would have to be on Facebook. Just send me either you know what? You can email me at here, let me put it up. Mhm. Where is it? Thought I had it on here. It was on here before. Oh, here it is. So you can either email me or if you're on the group page, I'll post it up there. But if you guys aren't in the group page yet, because that's where all the invites are going to go out when we do the next Zoom meeting. Um, I already have a list compiled, so if you're not on there either yet, you can go on the group page and send me. Um, send me a request to be on the Zoom for the next Zoom meeting. That's probably going to be next month sometime. Let me see where's my calendar. Here it is. So the last one was on the 18th. So it'll be on Friday the 18th of March. I think is when the next one will be. Oh no, thank you for having me on, Lisa. That was a lot of fun. So, well, Kevin, I know that that was your idea about doing. I know that we kind of talked about it a little bit before, but do you want to be the first victim, Kevin, and bring you on? Just let me know. We can talk about it in the chat a little bit. I'll ping you in there. I'll call you out on your post. You know what? I need to get a freaking heater. It's a little chilly in here. All right. So you're going to be the first victim, Kevin. We'll talk a little bit about it in the chat or in the group page, and then I'll set it up. And I'll get you the link to get on. So if anybody else has any stories or anything that they do want to share, just throw it up in the group chat or on the group page. Just create a post and then tell us your story, and then we'll just go that way. No, yeah, it just got really cold in here. It's my legs are really cold. And but you know what's funny is this actually where I'm at right now is believe it or not, it's warmer than in here. Always, it's always warm in here. It's warmer in here than it is in the house. It's just really weird. We used to party in here when I was because okay, so where I'm at right now, I lived in this house by myself um when I was in high school. I was just turned I think I just turned 18. I was a senior in high school and I lived in this house by myself. It's a 4-bedroom house. Um yeah, and I lived here by myself. There was always activity in this house. Some of the craziest experiences that we had was after um after I went to school, they started doing renovations on the house. So I went to school and then I came back um, during break. So I lived in the house over the summer and they were doing renovations to the house, and the activity just went through the roof. Um, Everything from full body apparitions to disembodied voices to poltergeist activity. I mean, you name it, it was happening, and other people witnessed it. Um, so yeah, it was just crazy, acti- crazy active. And living here by myself at that time, um, really kind of, yeah, it was just crazy. I have so many stories during that time. I would not stay in the house, or if if I forgot to turn lights on in the house before I left, I would not go in the house. Funny thing is because I would when I went to sleep, there's a couple of lights that I would leave on, just because when the house was completely dark, it it totally changed. The atmosphere in the house changed. You cannot leave the house completely dark because the house the just everything changed. And other people noticed that too. When it was dark, and people would not even um, none of my relatives would come over. My aunts or uncles would even come over. Nobody would come over. They were like, "I'm not going near that house," when it was dark. Um, but if lights were on, it was fine. It would be cool if you could share more information or haunted home, Garden Grove, and more experience. Yeah, I mean, I could. I mean, God, I kind of even want to show the possession that I got, but I just can't. Um, I've been sitting on that film for God, 7 years, maybe something like that. When did that happen? 2015. Yeah, 7 years ago. Whatever you want, Kevin. Whatever you want to talk about. Um, that's up to you because I mean that's your experiences that you're going to want to talk about. So we'll share your experiences. I mean, we'll do half hour, whatever you want to do, and then we'll just do. I don't know if you guys want to do ghost box sessions first on Saturday, and then go into that, and then do more ghost box sessions, or if you want to do come on talk about that first and then do ghost box sessions. It's really up to you. Sorry, guys, it's getting super cold in here. I'm surprised that I'm not seeing my breath yet, and it just happened. And there's no way. So the everything has weather stripping, so there's no way that there's air coming in. So that's just a little weird on how cold it's getting. Okay. Yeah, no, stories first and then the sessions. That's perfect. Wait, what? Sorry, I'm reading the comments. I'm just reading the comments and talking. Um, no, I'm not gonna do a cleansing. I It's all good. Maybe I want what's in here to stay in here. Come on, this is all for the show. I just want to keep it active. I never did a cleansing at the old studio. Why would I do it to the new one? Just saying. I got to do it for you guys. I'm not worried about myself. I'm fine. So, honestly, um I think it's my grandfather. I mean, my grandfather was the original he's the one that purchased the house. That he was the original owner, and when he passed, I mean, he was somebody that I left out too. When he passed, he was very angry. Um, my grandfather also invented he worked, um, in the citrus, um, what was he? Well, I know that he worked in the citrus groves. He's actually, in the Smithsonian, and he invented, some cutting shears, for, picking fruit, for picking, citrus. So, when he was working on that, I was really young, um, and he did not like anybody in his workshop. Um, I would come in here and work with him, and as long as he was in here, he was fine. But if I came into his workshop and he did not give me permission, oh, he would get pissed. Um, but anyway, so when he passed, he was a little angry. Um, and there was a couple of my younger cousins that said that they saw him. Um, and the energy, um, that he was, uh, the energy that he put out, I remember that feeling, whenever he'd get angry, and that was a feeling like that's why I think it was okay for me to be in the house, but if anybody else came in the house because he felt like it was a threat and they wanted to come in and change what he did in the house, I think that that's where it was all stemming from. When I was in the house by myself, it was fine. But if anybody would come into the house with me, that's when activity would happen. And that's why I think a lot of people were freaked out because when all the lights were out, nobody would want to go in the house. Like I said, the energy was totally different. Um, I would even get afraid of it when it was completely dark. Um, because at that time, I think there was a lot of protection of the house and they didn't want anybody to come in. So I would have to wait until the morning, go in, hang out, and then start turning on lights as soon as it's around sunset. I would have to turn on lights around sunset. If you didn't do it, yeah, that's when activity was going to happen. It was almost guaranteed, like clockwork. I wish I would have been, I guess, a little bit more into the paranormal then. Um, I was fascinated with it still, but I was still kind of learning. Didn't really have the mentors that I did, um, a year later or after the fact, but I wish I would have had those mentors a little bit sooner and I would have brought them into the home. Um, but I was still, just turned 18, living here by myself. So I was still a little naive. Um, and I didn't know who to turn to at that time. So, you know, it is what it is. I just never shared that story with anybody. Very few people know that I lived in this house by myself. Um, and my mom even forgot about it because she was just asking because she had to do something with her taxes or something. And they were asking when she first occupied the house. And I told her, and I knew exact dates. I mean, because like I said, I was living here. And I said, well, on this date is when I went to school. On this date is when I came home. On this date, I was still living here. On this date, you guys started doing renovations. On this date, I was still here. And then after I left, you guys came in. And she was like, "How do you remember this?" I said, "Because I was living here." And she said, "You were?" And I said, "Yeah, I was living here by myself. Don't you remember?" And she said, "Oh my God, I totally forgot about that." So, um, when I lived here by myself, I was still 17. Um, and then, uh, but no, I was living here with my grandmother. She got Alzheimer's, and then she went to live with my aunt in Colorado, and once she left, I was still here, and I didn't leave. So I was still 17. Um, I was 17 for what, 3 months, and then my birthday was in January. That's when I turned 18. So yeah, I was 17 and lived here by myself at 17 for 3 months. And I was working at that time. So, yeah, it was I just go to school, go to work, and come home. Um, the house is okay. Um, there's not much activity. But I totally forgot on how afraid when I was a kid, growing up, coming into this workshop. Um, I was I was afraid because of how my grandfather was, and even after he passed, I felt like he was still here, and I would have to just like, okay, I had to psych myself up. Okay, I got to go into the workshop. I got to go get a screwdriver. I would literally run, grab a screwdriver, run out. I mean, that's how. But that was my typical childhood growing up. Anytime I felt like a presence, that's how I was. I had to like psych myself up. Okay, oh my god, I have to go in there. All right, let me just run in real quick and run out. So, yeah, it's just that was just the feelings that I got. I mean, it was like when you have really bad anxiety and you have to go somewhere, just because you feel that activity and you feel that presence. But, living here at 17, I mean, I love to party. I would go to house parties all the time. I never told any of my friends that I lived here by myself because that's how much respect I had for my grandparents' house. I would never disrespect their house. Um, I thought about, hey, I could have a party. Nobody would ever know. But I couldn't do it because that's how much respect I had for my grandparents. And I thought if I would have a party, I'd be disrespecting them. So that's just how I was. God, I'm just rambling right now. But I'm reminiscing about the times in this place. Just brings back old memories. And how frightened I was of this place. And here I am doing a show in it now. I guess so, essay. I mean, absolutely. I think it was you know, I always was taught, this is what my grandfather taught me. He always told me to have respect for your elders. Um, I remember as a kid getting in trouble as a kid by my friends' parents, and they would tell me, "Rob, you need to go home." Um, and and I would go home. I mean, but who are my friends' parents to tell me to go home? When I got in trouble at their house, and they would say, "Go home," and then I would go home, and then my mom was like, "What's wrong?" "Oh, so and so's parents told me to go home because I did this." All right, yeah, go to your room. And then I was like, okay, you know, who does that? That's just the era that we grew up in. But anyway, yeah, now kids nowadays are so entitled. I hear them cussing out their parents or, cussing out their grandparents or whatever. It's just crazy. It's crazy. But anyway, sorry, like I said, I'm just rambling, reminiscing, thinking about this place and, having that little experience and see that cologne smell has been gone for a while. It was here for a little while, now it's gone. And that was kind of crazy. Um, so yeah, Saturday show. So we're gonna have Kevin come on first. Um, and then we'll start if anybody else wants to come on in the weeks to come, we'll just ask and we'll just go from there. I think it would be amazing to hear everybody's stories. We did talk about that a little bit in the Zoom meetings. Everybody got a chance to speak. Um, and just hearing everybody's experiences and how much a lot of us have in common, and have experienced the same thing. It's just amazing. So, um, you guys are amazing. I just love this group. Um, and you guys are the ones that are keeping me going. Over the last couple of weeks, I mean, I did contemplate on just not doing the show anymore. So, it's just everything that you guys have done, um, and certain people out there that just told me you can't stop doing the show. Um, it's you guys that are the reason why I'm not stopping or quitting doing this. I mean, I'm just going to continue moving forward. As you see, I'm back in the studio, um, having fun, and we're just going to keep on moving forward. And I think now with being in this studio, who knows what experiences we're going to have, especially once we start doing ghost box sessions and things like that. I mean, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be a lot of fun. But anyway, all right, so we're just gonna, I guess, end the show. I got to go warm up. I need to go grab my space heater. I know that I mean, I have my space heater somewhere. I just need to grab it and set it up. Um, the only reason why I don't like setting up the space heater is because of the winding fan noise, and sometimes you can hear it when I have it on. Um, you guys used to hear it in the old studio, so but if I have it far enough away, I think it should be fine. Or if I put out my feet, it might be okay. Well, you guys have a good night, and we'll see you guys on Saturday. And Kevin, I will hit you up in the group chat, and we'll talk there. But anyway, it was a fun show tonight. Thank you everybody for tuning in. If you guys missed it, tune back in, watch the replay. And David is an amazing guy. I cannot wait to go out to Key West and check out the museum. I'm excited. So, all right, everybody, I'll see you guys Saturday.